The Bondi Massacre. Is Australia willing to do what is necessary to get our country back? A country with essentially zero terrorism, where old rivalries from past lands between different groups, such as Protestants and Catholics, was muted and ultimately became irrelevant. How do we make our Jewish brothers and sisters feel safe and valued? Again, how do we make people realise that Jewish people are, for whatever reason, as a group, about the most talented on earth, and having Jews contributed to society is a huge benefit to us all? I did a video on this, on the incredible scientific achievement of Jews around the world, and as a physicist, one can only hold them in awe. And the irony is that Jews' contribution to medicine, such as the polio vaccine or the development of MRIs, or to chemistry with the development of synthetic fertilizers, has saved countless lives in the Middle East, where so much of the hatred of Jews can be found. And it's not just in science. The fabulous Australian Jewish businessmen like the Pratts and the Myers, for the very small number of Jews, their contribution has been out of all proportion to their numbers. Sir John Monash, the remarkable Australian leader of the World War I army in the latter part, arguably the most talented general of any of the sides during that war. So how do we go about fixing these problems? Well, I can tell you how we don't fix the problem: by just worrying about vile slogans, or tinkering with gun laws, or just tinkering with universities. Those slogans and the marches, they're just the visible signs of a much deeper problem, a festering black lump on the skin of society when a malignant melanoma deep down has spread to the organs of state. Now, obviously, chants of globalize the intifada is incitement to violence, and those people should have already been arrested, whether they were on university campuses or not. But they will just invent different slogans that will mean the same thing, and sometimes it's useful for the bad guys to say what they think, so it's obvious there is hatred and hypocrisy in their hearts, and you can finally see what we're up against. The broader question is whether Australia will go to the root cause of the problem. The deep hatred that's rampant in large parts of society, the universities, within parts of the Labor Party, in the Islamic community, the ABC, and in many parts of the elite side of society. And remember, a large number of these people do not just hate Jews, they hate everything about the West. They're as quick to claim that Australia is built on stolen land as to accuse Israel of stealing Arab lands and being an illegitimate nation. Everything to them, or a lot of them, is about Australia is shameful, especially the white males who built much of it. Their anti-Semitism is just their vilest feature. Now, it's often said that Christians and the wider community should protect Jews because, well, you'll be next. And this is completely true, even though it's probably the worst and basest, most self-centered reason to oppose murder and rape of Jews. But it's worthwhile making that point nevertheless. The Jews are first, we come next. So no tinkering, we need massive reform. And I've got just a few things which we could start with. First is definitely the universities. There are so many of the noxious ideas of modern society that have ultimately come from our university. Let's not tinker with demonstrations or student marches. Whole areas of the humanities need to be reformed or defunded, and alternative pathways set up. Now, the most important of these is the special case of teacher education. Now, you may wonder why teacher education. It's because of those who train the teachers and select who become teachers, they own your children for 12 years. And the universities make sure that only teachers that, outward at least, are followers of the hate-filled, self-destroying, self-loathing ideology who will ultimately be able to make it through their courses. And that will include rampant anti-Semitism, at least incipient. And don't underestimate the impact of the universities have on our education system. Our youth have been indoctrinated through the schools, through the universities, and through the influence of universities and the control over schools through teacher training. It's not a coincidence that older people are far more likely to support Jews in Israel than the youth that have been indoctrinated. And on the same vein, we have to reform our school curriculum. We need to overhaul, to start with our children, to learn the truth about our country, the incredible achievements of the West, of the Europeans, and especially the British, being responsible for the wonderful scientific achievements and the growth of prosperity and freedom across the world over the last few hundred years. And to teach them that Israel is the shining light of the Middle East, the only true democracy that has flourished when it's been surrounded by people who would rape and kill them at a drop of a hat. Surrounded countries which are all failures. And maybe teach our children that Gaza is not the only conflict in the world, or even in that part of the world. Hundreds of thousands are being killed in Nigeria, in Yemen, in Syria, in Sudan, and where it's the Muslims who are doing all of the killing. And we must deal with the ABC. We need to get rid of it. I hesitate a bit because actually the country ABC that deals with country issues is actually pretty sensible. I guess that even the ABC realises that country folk won't tolerate the rubbish. But the disgusting statements of Sarah Ferguson and Laura Tingle in the last weeks should dispel any doubt that the ABC is past redemption. To suggest that Josh Frydenberg was just making political capital to make a political comeback on the basis of the murder of the Jews at Bondi was just staggering. Or to suggest that the murders were not religiously motivated. But that's not even the worst bit. The worst bit is that the ABC management have supported those two journalists in those shameful comments. So the ABC must go. Let people subscribe to it if they want. They can pay for it if they want to listen to that sort of rubbish. But government-sponsored hatred, no. Next, what are we going to do with the Islamic community? Or more importantly, what is the Islamic community going to do? Yes, it's obviously a tiny, tiny minority who commit these brutal acts, but there's too much tacit approval of it, especially of anti-Semitism in the wider Islamic community. Doesn't matter whether you're in Australia or the UK or Germany, too much support for Sharia law, which is completely incompatible with the Australian culture and way of life. We need to encourage them to leave their hatreds where it came from and make it clear that this is expected. When are we going to confront them about this problem, and when are they going to confront it? And should we really be accepting more migrants from countries in the Middle East where the chances of importing anti-Semitism and people who hate us is huge? It's not like there's a shortage of people who want to come to Australia. Do we need to take that risk? Can we screen people better? It certainly would be unfair to discriminate against individuals because there is a risk when they maybe, and mostly are, perfectly decent people. But why should we have to take that risk with our country? Of course, there's probably all sorts of laws which make this very difficult. So one of the questions is Australia willing to change these laws, or do we just accept the anti-Semitism and keep importing more of it? And finally on the list is multiculturalism. Will we see a government policy encouraging assimilation and abandoning multiculturalism, which is tearing our country apart. You can be a Jew, a Christian, a Muslim, and be Australian. But being Australian means that that hatred is left somewhere else. And you must mix in the general community and become an Australian. The culture is Australian. That's all there is to it. There is no multi about it. So yes, let's talk about gun laws and whether the shooter should have been issued a license. And let's lock up a few of those ratbag youth chanting from the river to the sea. But unless we're willing to cut deep into that cancer that is deep inside, then soon enough there'll be another shooting. And even if you ban every gun in the country, there'll be a truck smashing into a crowd. And the Jews who once lived in this wonderful land will be hiding behind security walls. Just imagine what that must be like. This land, Australia, where 30 years ago it would have been unthinkable. But the danger is that we will forget this atrocity in a week or 5, become complacent, tinker around the edges, and the symptoms not being fixed, the symptoms that are deeper in the community.